the emergency room. I just happened to glance behind the desk, and hanging on the wall is a calendar. And the full-color, large picture on the calendar is, you guessed it, the Hotel del Coronado. Well, I had to pay attention to these little things, and took this as an invitation from Kate to visit her hotel. So, I reserved one of their smallest, cheapest rooms, and the next time I had a 4-day weekend, I packed up my convertible, drove down the coast from San Francisco to San Diego, arrived at the hotel, went up to the desk to check in, and the clerk says, "Oh, I'm sorry, all of the small, cheap rooms, like the one you had reserved, are booked up." I think, "Oh, we do have this suite with a balcony overlooking the courtyard in the old section of the hotel. Will that be all right?" He said, "I'll give it to you for the same price as the small, cheap, cheesy room you had reserved." Naturally, I say, "Okay," and at the beginning, think this is going to be a very interesting stay. So, up I go to the bubble bath, drank beer out of the room bar. Shouldn't do that.
Welcome to the stream. Ghost to Ghost.
As is my habit anytime I stay in an expensive
1998.
hotel. I took a nap and got dressed for dinner. Went down to the bar for a cocktail. The bartender brought all of my drinks. Had dinner in one of the restaurants, and when I asked for my check, the waiter told me that a gentleman who had been seated across the room had paid the check. The rest of the visit was uneventful. No apparitions, no funky stuff, until the stay at the hotel never showed up on my credit card bill. Now, I'm a relatively honest person, and under normal circumstances, I probably would have called the Hotel del Coronado, told them about their oversight. However, when viewed with everything else that occurred, the calendar, the upgrade, the free drinks, the free dinner, it was rather apparent to me that I had indeed been a guest.
Introducing the owl, I'm a queen. Rub is my crown to the bone.
had indeed been a guest, Kate's guest, at the Hotel del Coronado. She is a fine hostess, and I hope to return one of these days. And I have, of course, more like this. And if any of you have a particularly good ghost story, we're going to do two things. One, we are going to tell ghost stories from those of you who call on the phone lines. And we are going to also invite you, rather than sending in a fax with your ghost story, if you have a particularly good one, send me a fax with your phone number, and I will call you. Open. So wherever you are in the world, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you have a ghost story, and I do have one sent to me here from Belgium, I've got another one from South Africa. All lines, all nights, all ghost stories. Here we go. First time caller line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Carrie calling from Eugene, Oregon.
Hello, Kay. How are you? You're going to have to get good close to the phone because you're not too loud.
How's it?
That's better.
All right. Well, my boyfriend's brother, he moved into this house in Providence, Rhode Island. And come to find out, it used to be a funeral home. And, like, they have the places, like, in the basement where, you know, they burned the bodies and did all that crazy stuff.
Cremation.
Yeah. And, now he feels like there's a ghost there. Like, things will be missing, like, things you don't misplace, like toothpaste, cutting board, just gone.
Gone.
And, one time, his roommate, you know, they were just sitting there drinking coffee. His roommate went into his room because he finished his cup, and he came back out, and it was completely filled, hot. Jason didn't get it for him or anything. And it wasn't even made right how he likes it. And he said sometimes, you know, like a door will slam. One time he actually had to leave because he was so scared because there was like rubbing all on the walls and clanging noises.
You know, let me tell you a little story back now.
Okay.
I saw a movie the other night. I can't recall the name of it, unfortunately. Now a million people will send it to me, but it was about a man who went to work in a morgue.
Uh-huh.
And he was a guard in the morgue. And he would have his little guard desk, and he'd have his little, you know, guards have keys, and they have to make the rounds and turn the key so that the owner knows they really made their assigned rounds at night. And he had a desk and a workstation when he wasn't having to make his rounds. And there was this red light behind him.
All right, fellas. 1, 2, 3, hit it!
And there was this red light behind him. And in the morgue, they would have the bodies all lined up on these cots covered with sheets in a cold, what's called a cold room. But
it was going on. The first thing I could think of to say was, you know, what do you want? And
boy, that's pretty good. You know, some people in your position might have fired that gun. I mean, just out of absolute heart-stopping fright, they might have fired that gun.
it probably wouldn't have done a whole lot of good. I think she was already beyond the point that my pistol could have hurt her very much.
Good that you could realize that.
Anyhow, she looked at me and she just had this, if you can imagine a little old lady who's kind of ornery and just knows that she's pulling the best trick in the world on somebody. She just had that kind of bemused, old lady ornery look on her face. And so like I said, I asked her, what do you want? And she just kind of grinned at me and then faded out and disappeared. We haven't had any, I haven't seen her since then or any of her. She doesn't, you know, move things around in my house or anything. The only thing that ever happens that might be out of the ordinary is every once in a while, you know, if my wife and I are in the living room watching television or something, we have a dog. And there's been a few times that she goes in the kitchen because that's where her food dish is. And she's not the kind of dog that's spooky. She loves people and, you know, nothing really scares her too much. But she'll be in the kitchen and we'll just hear her let out a little yip. And then she'll just come running back in the living room and cower at our feet.
Sure.
And whenever she does that, I just imagine that kind of ornery look on that old lady's face and figure she's just playing tricks on my dog. As long as that's all she does, I guess it doesn't really bother me a whole lot.
Well, I understand. Nevertheless, what do you think you saw?
Well, I'm sure it was a ghost. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind about that. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't asleep. I've been at work, you know.
I've got you. All right. Thank you so much for the story. Take care. Deputy Sheriff. And of course, seeing is believing. Once you have seen, as that man saw, you will believe. You will never doubt again. You will always know that that there is something over on the other side. Whether that's to be your destination or not, you cannot know until your time has come. But there is certainly something there, something that can come through. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
I'm on the air?
Yes.
Hi, Art.
Your name is?
My name's Dave.
Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hi. I'm from Kyle, Winchester, Ohio.
Okay.
I just want to start by saying this story began and ended on Halloween night, and it's a pretty scary one, I think.
Okay.
Let me just start by saying I was in college. I was dorming with a few friends off campus at an apartment. And about half a mile down the road was a house that I suspected to be haunted. I've seen ghosts before and things like that, so it's a whole different story. But I just felt that this house was haunted just from the way it looked, things that were going on. Nothing actually was going on there. You never seen anybody. The only thing that ever happened there was that there would be a curtain up in the high window that on occasion was drawn slightly.
This was an unoccupied or occupied house?
I had asked neighbors and other people if they'd seen anybody live there. They said no. It looked like someone had lived there.
I always kind of live near what I would always think of as a haunted house. You know what they look like.
Right. Well, it just seemed haunted. No, you never seen any people. You asked neighbors, they never seen any people. I don't know.
So did you finally decide to investigate?
Yes. That's on Halloween night.
Inevitably.
I convinced some friends. Actually, my girlfriend, who now I'm getting married to 9 years later.
She's marrying you?
Yeah, this happened 9 years ago.
Well, I guess if you could talk her into doing that.
Yes.
Anyway, proceed.
I took her and another couple to, let's go down there. It's Halloween night. Let's see if anything happened. So, we take a walk. This house sat right on a creek, pretty large creek.
We're all on a mission.
Make the impossible possible.
Compartments, amnesic barriers, which were unaware of the existence of the others. And if through hypnotic keys, triggers, words, signs, whatever, you could pull one of these amnesic barriers to the front to become the conscious level, that could experience something or be programmed to do something robotically. And then that compartment could be pushed back in the mind and another one pulled forward. Now this new one has no idea the other compartment exists, let alone what it's experienced or what it's been programmed to do. This has become known as multiple personality disorder, or DID, dissociative identity disorder, which is much more appropriate. And for short, these people are known as multiples. And this is some of the terms that Arizona will be using in the interview. Now, we've reached a point here of the headquarters of the Global Mind Control Network. This is the Tavistock Institute in Tabernacle Street, 30 Tabernacle Street in London. And it was this network, and is this network, that coordinates the mind control program around the world, both on a mass and individual level. The background to this organization is this. It used to be a part of the British military psychological warfare department, appropriately, and it was developed by a guy called Dr. John Rawlings Rees. And other parts of the network were established around the world. Stanford in America is one of them. And together they coordinate the mass mind manipulation of the human race and mind program people on an individual level. Just to give you an idea, these mind controlled people are overwhelmingly those that do the assassinations. Why is it always a lone nutter that's responsible for assassination? Some people say, oh, he was just a nutter. No conspiracy, no more investigation necessary. Why is it that the same psychological profile keeps turning up all over the world with guns, going crazy with guns in the street, killing people, creating problem reaction solution situations in which legislation comes through and is introduced as a result of those horrors? Interestingly, Martin Bryant, the man who went crazy with a gun in Port Arthur, Tasmania, just happened to be treated by a guy called Dr. Eric Cunningham Dax. Now, Cunningham Dax was the Tavistock Institute representative in Australia and a close associate for decades of Dr. John Rawlings Rees that set the whole thing going. So when someone goes crazy with a gun or these horrific things happen, we need to ask the question, are they doing it from their own mind, or are they programmed to do it because of the effect of what they do? Now, Arizona Wilder was brought up from birth in these mind control programs, and her programmer was Joseph Mengele, the angel of death. And when he eventually died in the late 80s, because the subject of the programming becomes so attached to the programmer, almost worshipping the programmer, when the programmer dies, often the programming starts to break down. It did with this lady, and that's why now she's speaking out and talking in staggering detail about what she experienced and the people that she was involved with. People might find it hard to believe that Joseph Mengele was in the United States and South America after the war, but there was a British intelligence, American intelligence operation called Project Paperclip, which got people like Mengele and other leading Nazis out of Germany at the end of the war to continue their mind programming and to continue their genetic research and manipulation in America after the war, in the United Kingdom also. So this is some important background to this Arizona Wilder interview, but it's not even the biggest secret. The biggest secret is even more bizarre than that. Well, I've now come literally a few strides outside of the official boundaries of the City of London into an area known as Temple Bar, where the Royal Courts of Justice are established, and this is the centre of the British legal profession. Not just the British legal profession, but the legal profession of the world, as the biggest secret exposes. This is where they come to the bar, as it's said, to become barristers, the top of the legal profession, and eventually to become the judges that are part of the network, of the secret society network, overwhelmingly, who are told what to do. And when you've got judges being told what to do by the secret society network, what justice is there? Temple Bar is named after the Knights Templar, one of the secret societies in the ancient world that I talk about in my books, and they were part of this network, and their successors are continuing that manipulation of the agenda to this day. Now, I'm standing across the road from the Royal Courts of Justice here, outside something called the Outer Temple, which is one of the major secret societies that manipulate and control the legal profession and the workings of so-called justice in Britain, and indeed, like I say, further afield. But the reason I've come here overwhelmingly is to point out something from the centre of the road here, at the boundary between Temple Bar and the City of London. And it's a massive reptile figure, dragon figure, in the centre of the road. Now, we're getting into what the biggest secret is here, because when you go around London, and indeed looking at the coats of arms of the aristocratic families, etc., again and again, you keep seeing reptiles, you keep seeing dragons, and you've got the serpent race and the dragon race constantly recurring in the ancient texts describing the gods of the ancient world. And there is a reason for this. There is a reason why dragons appear everywhere, and that is the biggest secret, which Arizona Wilder also has experienced. Right at the start of our little tour of London, in that square outside the Bank of England, it's also possible to see again this same theme that keeps reoccurring of flying dragons, of flying serpents. We've seen one major serpent figure, serpent statue at one entrance to the City of London near the Law Courts, and here I am now alongside the River Thames at another entrance to the City of London, this epicenter of global control. And what do you have to signpost the fact that you're entering the City of London? Yet another flying dragon, this one holding the shield with a red cross and a white background, this ancient symbol that I talked about with the flag on top of the Mansion House and the flag of England, the flag of King George. So what's going on? Why, when you look at the ancient accounts, the ancient gods, you again and again see this reoccurring theme of the serpent race, the serpent gods, the flying serpents? Why, in my research for The Biggest Secret, have I come across a stream of people from different walks of life all over the world who have told me the same thing, that they have seen, to their astonishment and amazement, they've seen key people in positions of power just demanifest from being a human physical form and become before their eyes a reptilian figure. When you look at the ancient gods of the Indus Valley, they talk about the Nagas, the gods who, wait for it, have the ability to manifest as human or manifest as reptiles. This is absolutely vital to understanding parts of the Arizona interview, because she has experienced exactly this. And the background to what's happening is quite simple. This three-dimensional world that we appear to live in is only one frequency, one dimension of existence. We have a frequency range which we can perceive, we call the physical senses. But outside of that range are other frequencies, other dimensions of existence and life that are sharing the same space that we are. In the space that my body is occupying now, for instance, are all the radio and television frequencies broadcasting to London. I can't see them, they can't see each other, they're not aware of each other because they're on different frequencies. Only when the frequencies become very close do we have what we call interference on the television or interference on the radio. And it's the same with creation. We live in conscious terms in this three-dimensional world. So this is our reality, this is what we perceive. But there are other dimensions. And the one closest to this is the fourth dimension. And staggering as it may seem, when you really have to read The Biggest Secret to see the immense support for this, a reptilian race from this fourth dimension is the source, or one of the key sources, of the manipulation of this world. Back in the ancient world, again, documented endlessly in so many parts of the world, in ancient texts, legends, accounts, are the stories of how this extraterrestrial race integrated humanity, creating hybrid bloodlines. And when you do the genealogical research, you find that it is these human-reptile hybrid bloodlines that actually have occupied the major positions of power through the history of the last few thousand years. And today are in the key positions of power, running the banking system, the business system, the politics, the military, etc. And Arizona Wilder, who had no idea of all this other information coming towards me in researching The Biggest Secret, when I met her, she said and told me about how at various satanic rituals involving the most famous people in the world, she had seen them again and again turn into reptile figures and then come back again during the ritual. I got a call from the head of an organization in America called Parents Against Ritual Abuse, who told me again from her experience how many of her clients who had been subjected to satanic ritual had reported the same story of how the participants had shape-shifted, as the term goes, from human to reptiles and back again during the ritual. And one of the key areas, one of the key families identified by Arizona Wilder in her account is one not too far from here, and it's very famous indeed. And the family in that bloodline live here, at least partly live here. Buckingham Palace, one of the many palaces and homes of the British royal family, the House of Windsor. They're seen as bastions of the establishment, the British establishment, but in fact, the Windsor bloodline is not British at all, it's German. It's really the House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. And on Prince Philip's side, the husband of the Queen of England, he's a Mountbatten, which is really Battenberg. Again, another German line. In 1917, they changed the name from Battenberg to Mountbatten, from the House of Saxe-Coburg to Windsor, because at that time, you may recall, the German nation and the British nation were knocking hell out of each other in the trenches of northern France. And it was good PR from the British royal family's point of view to just change their name to sound more English. And this is just the farce and the facade behind so much, or behind which so much goes on. However, most people, if not almost everyone on the planet, would find the fact that the House of Windsor are one of these reptilian-human hybrid lines that shape-shift between human and reptilian form to be utterly, devastatingly ludicrous and unbelievable. I understand that, but the truth, the real truth, often is. And Arizona Wilder, in the interview that's coming up now, is going to talk about her experiences of seeing this happen. Well, I think that's all you need to know and appreciate to understand the kind of information that Arizona Wilder is going to reveal to us now, except one thing. Across the millennium years is crunch time in this whole agenda, crunch time for the human race. This is the time when this network of interbreeding bloodlines wants to bring in its global fascist structure of a world government to which nation states would be administrative units, of a world central bank and a world currency, a currency that wouldn't be cash, it would be merely electronic, for which there are fundamental implications for human freedom. And also the world army, which is designed to be NATO, expanding and expanding as it is now, of course, to become the fully fledged world army, world police force. And underpinning that little lot is designed to be a microchip population, in which we are microchipped with our financial details, our medical details, etc., etc. And that would allow not only electronic tagging, people knowing where we are all the time, it would allow the external manipulation through this electronic means of our mental and emotional processes. This will happen unless the human race wakes up and wakes up fast. And to do that, we need to understand what's really going on. And to let people know that, we've got to stop beating about the bush, stop pulling punches, stop pussyfooting around, keeping information from people, oh my goodness, how will they react, and just say, this is going on, take it or leave it, make of it what you will, but this is what's going on. And some of the information you're going to hear now is quite horrific, but if we don't know about it, what can we do to stop it and change it? I spoke to Arizona Wilder in Los Angeles, and this is what she had to say.
Arizona, can we start at the beginning and can you tell us the story of what's happened in your life from the very start?
Okay, what I can tell you is that before I started looking into my life, back in 1989, I was starting to have flashes of things, and my life was not what it seemed to be, which is why I started looking into it. And what I found out was that I had a lot of missing time, and a whole lot of missing time, as to what had occurred in my life. And when I I started looking into what had happened in my life, it was the only way that at the time that I knew, was to start going to see a therapist. Within a year, I was talking about memories of being sexually abused by my father, which was part of what was supposed to happen. And I was starting to talk about mind control issues, and I was talking about ritual abuse issues at the time, and I didn't have the whole thing put together. It's taken me years, all these years, it's taken me approximately almost 10 years to put this together and what has happened to me. And in the process, I have lost everything that I ever had in my life, and everything I held dear in my life. I was bred for this role that I fulfill, and it was planned from before my birth, and it was because of the bloodline of my mother's family, which comes down through Ireland, but before that it began in France, and it was through the Marquis de Stafford, who came to Ireland and changed the name to Stack, and then I was chosen, and the birth was planned. My parents were forced to move down to this area for the reason that the High Council is down here, which is, there are 6 councils of 13 in this country, and the High Council is down here. The United States, yes. And so, from the time that I was a baby, I was being abused and traumatized, and on purpose, for the mind control that they need someone to go through to do whatever they say, to be as just a puppet, that they can control every move. And you don't remember, I didn't remember a lot of things, because I have, as a result of all of this mind control, split off many parts that all hold memories, hold feelings, hold programs, hold information, and I've been working very hard to pull all of that up, and it's been a long, slow process for me, because there don't seem to be a lot of people in the field that I only felt was the only way I could go was psychiatric and psychological. They don't seem to know what is really going on, and I believe that a lot of them are afraid of being sued should they suggest something, and so they cannot lead or suggest. It's been a process of me having to trigger myself to remember, and be around people that can help me with that can't really be touched by False Memory Syndrome Foundation.
So what happened, so you were abused as a child, part of this compartmentalizing of your mind. What went on after that you got over?
Well, they start with wanting to make me an obedient slave at first, and so they do a lot of sensory deprivation, they do a lot of sensory overload, and they switch between the two, and they do out-and-out torture. They take a small child and the electroshock, in my case it was electroshock to the brain, and they would take away my chance to sleep. They kept me awake for many hours at night, would not let me sleep, and I was also told things as this was before the age of 5, I was told things such as, if you, they would make me drink water, and they would say, if you pass urine, you're going to have to drink it. And they would make me drink it. And if you have bowel movement, you're going to have to eat the feces, which is also what happened to me. And then they would play, there was a programmer that was programming me, a very infamous person in history who actually has been in this country, and he was known as Dr. Green. Who he actually was Dr. Mengele, Joseph Mengele from the concentration camps in Germany, and he was he stayed a lot at China Naval Weapons Station here in Southern California, in the desert area. And I would be around this man a lot, and he used to tell me that the scar that he had on the left cheek of his face was actually from, he was a defensive, and it was from that actually the scar on his cheek was from one of his own programming techniques, that he would put a child in a box and with a sword and tell the child to defend the box, even if it meant his own death. Then he'd tell another child to break into the box, and which this child would do, and then the other child would then jump out of the box and shove the sword or the lance straight through the other child. And at one point he got into it where this child actually got him in the face with the sword. And he would wear a huge emerald ring on his left hand, on his middle finger. And he would twist this emerald around and for programming, and he was into using long colored ribbons and different colors, and you had to choose a certain ribbon, or you were given a certain ribbon, and that meant that this certain thing was going to happen to you. And it was like picking sticks out, or drawing sticks out of a hand in your someone's hand. I saw games of Russian roulette played where it was chosen beforehand that a child would die, and the child would put the gun up to his head and pull the trigger, and this child would end up dying. But it was meant to scare all of us and keep us in terror. And so many other children that were around me that went through the same thing. I have run into people from my childhood that have known me, and I have recognized their names, and even if they change their names and change their hair color, as I have done, they have recognized me, I have recognized them, and they know their name, they know my name. There isn't any way for this to have happened. It's just beyond coincidence. And when you get older, they start taking this program in particular. Mengele would take me to rituals. I went to rituals with him all over this country and in Britain and in France, and it was known by intelligence agencies in this country that this man was here. They brought him here.
Is that Project Paperclip you're talking about?
Yeah, through the OSS. And my family, or my so-called family, are all DID. They have not. They are very well programmed, and they have not sought help. They have not gone in and try to figure out what's happening. They believe they have this certain kind of life that they've had, and as far as they are concerned, I am crazy. And they have much different memories of what I have, and I was always told certain things by my parents that my sisters were never told. And biologically, I have to add at this point that my mother is my mother. I'm not biologically related to my father. And this has to do with the bloodlines, and his was considered impure. And this is all about purity of the bloodline. And that is why I am involved in this. There are people that are involved in this that it is not so much because of bloodline that they have the ability to dissociate and be used as slaves by these people.
You say that you come from a certain bloodline, and there is this obsession with bloodlines that this Brotherhood Illuminati have. And why is that?
Because what first started coming out was about the Aryans, and the purity of the blood. And what it's all about is that the blood and the menstrual blood contains something that is important for the propagation of this race that is controlling things on this planet. And these people that are in the organization that the Council of 13 is under and they have something called the Grand Druid Council or the Octagon, they're called the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are actually run by these 13 bloodlines, which are all of the royal families in Europe and in England. And they need the blood because they are, in fact, not human. They take human shape. They are reptilians. And they need the blood. The blood helps them maintain their reptilian shape, and it helps them maintain their sanity, and it helps them to live in this world because they are not from this world.
Does that relate to what the Nazis call grill power and what the Hindus call serpent power in the blood?
Yes, the blood has something in it. It has secretions from the pituitary gland and from the pineal gland, and it has a very strong drug in it that they also, this is the one that keeps them from going crazy, and it's like heroin or like endorphins, and it's much stronger. But what they need is, for it to be secreted in the blood, is they need terrorization of their victims before they are killed for their blood, or if a young woman is beginning to menstruate, they need the menstrual blood, and they have to terrorize them to get this to come out in the blood and be secreted in the blood.
Is this what other people talk about, the great terror at the point of sacrifice? There's the incredible
Yes, that and this other element comes and secretes out through the blood. This all comes out through the blood at that time. It's at that point they are actually staring into the eyes of the head of at some of these rituals, or at a reptilian. They are staring into the eyes of this person, and it's a hypnotic gaze these reptilians have, and it holds the victim absolute trance, and a trance of terror, and then they are killed at that moment as they are staring into the eyes, and not only do they can't hold their shape when this happens, the human shape they cannot hold, they go back into the reptilian shape as this is happening, because it's like an animalistic type of excitement of the kill, and they oftentimes they will just rip into it and eviscerate them, start eating the flesh of this person too, and the fat from the intestinal areas, how the body, as they use it on their skin. And then they drink the blood, and blood is highly sought after, and it goes according also to rank within these creatures as to who gets what when. Their sacrifices have increased in the last, it started increasing in the early 80s, the amount that they were doing is increased, and they use a lot of druidic holidays to do this, but they have other days too. They've mixed all of these satanic, what are called satanic holidays and druidic holidays, and in order to have these rituals, which ritual seems to be important to them, but they also use it in order to drink this blood. They seem to need more. So there are changes going on in the earth. It seems they're not able to hold their shape like they once were able to, and people see them shapeshift more and more, and they need the blood to try and maintain it, to try and maintain a human form. I believe there's a time coming that because of what I've been told, when they are not going to bother having to hold that human shape as they had to before, and they want that time to come. It's almost upon us.
So when you're talking about the fact that the veil is lifting on these reptilians so that people can see them far more easily, far more often, does this relate in any way to the fact that there is this desire to bring in this rigid structure, including microchipping and many other things, across the year 2000, which has become known as the New World Order? Is that coming in because it is known that the people are going to see what the game is, and there has to be control of the people in that time?
Yes, it's very connected. I started talking about the New World Order back in 1990, and I was very psychologically and physically affected so much by what was coming out. I wasn't watching television. I was not aware that certain individuals in this country, George Bush, were talking about the New World Order. I was talking about it because that was what was coming out, and knowing that the first time that inside of myself that I heard it was in conjunction with the Nazis, and that came from Mengele. And I started realizing that there was something going on, and then it scared me. And I didn't really look into it for years, but I was being harassed constantly. I was being told. At one point, I had someone telling me that I was being, and who's ex-Army intelligence, ex-CIA, telling me that I was being monitored by the National Security Agency. And I didn't have the whole story then, so I did not totally understand why this was happening. But yet I was being followed by cars or vans that said G12, G14, and in this last year, which has really been very hard, I've been followed by G41 vans, and I had to find out what those were, and that was naval intelligence. But this whole thing is going towards around the year 2000, and when they are going to establish themselves openly as a new world order, and it's headed toward that, and that's what everything's being prepared to and prepared for. And I have actually I've got a sleeping program right now to return, because I've left, but to return for that time. It's called End Times Programming, JAMS Programming. Yeah, there is a group that used to be in contact with me all the time, and they stopped trying simply because I didn't obey them. They would be in contact with me all the time. They're called Janus, which is also the two-headed Roman god of change, and their headquarters is in Brussels, Belgium, in the NATO building. And they are a group of psychiatrists and doctors who are into mind control, and they are one of the main groups involved with the Illuminati. And they would contact me and tell me, give me directions that I was to psychically kill this person, or psychically injure this person, or scare this person. They'd give me the location. And I started questioning this, and I had a contact who since has seemed to have disappeared because she couldn't get the funding. I had called her about this group, and she's the one that was the ex-CIA, ex-Army intelligence person, and she knew about these people, and she said, yes, you're right, this is what is going on.
From your experience being brought up in this Illuminati environment, were you ever told anything about where these reptilians came from, and what is the history of it all?
I was made to learn through Mothers of Darkness, which is a certain aspect of the organization, because that was an early part of my training, the history of what was the Illuminati on this planet. And what I learned was that the Aryans originally were from Mars, and the reptilians came to that planet they came from another place, they came to that planet, they came to rule, because they wanted to mix, so they said, with that race, and they became the overlords, and the Martians or Aryans were seeking to escape from it. They went to the moon and then were there attacked, and they then went to Earth and established culture here on Earth approximately 6,000 years ago. And at that point in time, they were doing well, and they were mixing with the indigenous population of this Earth. They were getting along with. And then about 4,000 years ago, the reptilians arrived here and again began to take over. They instilled themselves in different places underground in the earth, and all also this one part of them, the ruling part, took over and became involved in politics and in religion, and started controlling through these means at that point in time, and using the gods and deities that were believed in on this planet, started infiltrating into that and becoming that, and things started, blood rituals started happening, and since that time, that is the way that it has been. And presently, they claim to come from the Merovingian bloodline. They are all of the 13 bloodlines in Europe that are all of what are called royalty are developed from or come from. And they include the Aryans in this, and there's been a big push in this century. For example, when Nazis came into power, the fascists, talking about the purity of being pure and staying, the Aryan bloodline staying pure, and what it actually is all about is keeping the blue-eyed, blonde or light red-haired people, the bloodline's pure because it is more powerful, and what is in that blood for these reptilians is more powerful, and they read that. And when you start mixing it with people that were indigenous to this earth, then it is not as powerful. It has nothing to do with someone's skin color or nationality. It has to do with keeping the bloodline pure for their use.
So blonde-haired, blue-eyed people are the purest from the reptilians' point of view, and that they want to keep that bloodline pure because so how they need to use it.
Yes, when I realized that it had to do with blonde hair and blue eyes, I could not do anything about my eyes, and I am not able to wear contacts, or I would have brown eyes. But one thing I did do was cut my hair off because that was part of the rank I was. My hair was down to my knees, and I colored my hair darker. And there were times when after I did cut it off, they had gotten to me, and so the hair would be light red, but that is being in compliance with them. And I did not want to be in compliance to them. I want to expose them, and this is part of it, and I won't be what they want me to be.
When you look at some of the ancient accounts, like the Sumerian texts and many other accounts, they talk about the gods interbreeding with humanity. Is this relevant to the reptilian way of infiltrating the human race?
Yes, it is, because human beings through the ages have accepted God's interbreeding or being accepted as humans, and that shows in Christianity, it shows in Judaism. It also, they have used Egyptology or the Egyptian religions a lot, and the present head of the Illuminati compares himself a lot with the Egyptian god Osiris and Horus, which is Osiris Reborn, and also with the Arthurian legends of the Round Table. And he has a name, and the name that he carries from that is Pindar, which actually means phallus of the dragon. And the other name, Osiris, he has carried because he takes the name at this time, the Marquis de Libero, which means a liberator of or from the waters. And the story of Osiris is that he was cut into 14 pieces and thrown into the River Nile. And the one piece, Isis found the pieces and put them back together again. And she could not find the 15th piece, which happened to be the phallus, so a gold phallus was made. And this is very important in this group in the Illuminati. This is important, and it's important to think that about the head of the Illuminati, because what comes from a golden phallus would be a superior seed for a race, and this is how this is what they are doing with all of these bloodlines to keep the bloodlines going, are impregnating Aryan people of Aryan blood that hold high stations with them, impregnating them with the seed of Pendar. And therefore it's important to keep this history in mind and the names in mind that he is going by at this time.
So would it be correct to say that the reptilians came to this planet because the Aryan Martians came to this planet, and that the Aryan Martians gone somewhere else that have followed the name?
They would have pursued them all over the universe, yes.
Can we now go into some specifics about your own experiences? What were you brought up to do? You say that you were identified as a bloodline before you were born. What was the role that you were brought through to play?
The role that I was brought through to play was, as in the Illuminati, was as a goddess. Specifically, the address is Mother Goddess, Starfire. And the Starfire goes back to the blood in the menstrual blood, what is contained in that. And the address, the way that I was addressed was Mother Goddess. There are only 3 Mother Goddesses. There can only be 3 at a time on this planet, and there is a male equivalent in which there can be only 3 of them.
Why mind control someone to conduct these rituals, like yourself? Why don't these reptilians just conduct their own rituals?
They don't seem to have the psychic abilities, and they look for people that have that, and people in the bloodline that have that. And I have had that. I've had a tremendous amount of psychic ability, and so I was picked and bred from before birth, and this is also something that other survivors that have been in high positions have known about me and told me.
What's the connection then between you having psychic abilities, those being recognized from the start, and you being brought through to conduct their major rituals?
Well, it's kind of twofold. First of all, they needed the psychic abilities because they attempt to control events, because I would have the ability to foretell what was going to happen, and they needed the information to try to control it to an outcome that was good for them. The second thing is that during the rituals, you have to have psychic ability. You have to be very powerful in that way to call out the old ones that are also reptilian, that come from another dimension. They actually they materialize from out of another dimension and are present at rituals, and they are so powerful, and their presence is there's such an evilness about them, and they want out of this other dimension, and they can't. They have to be called out by someone who has that power, and the reptilians don't have this power. That's very important. That they don't have this power to call out these old ones that have to do with them. And
what is it that the humans have that the reptilians don't have, that means they don't have the power to connect interdimensionally and some humans do?
we have the ability to foresee, to be able to become vibrationally higher, and see into those levels, go into those levels, and in fact, agencies use this. They call it remote viewing. To go, humans have the ability to go into the past, to go into the future, to go to other places, to astrally leave their body, astrally, and to see things that we've always had this ability, and it's like having a third eye, which they don't have. They don't have this ability. So during ritual, these old ones are called out, and they are what Christianity would have called the demons. They are called out, and there is a circle that it has a hexagon in there, which is a powerful occultic symbol, and then there is a pentagram, and then there in the middle of that there is a triangle, and if you're the one calling them out, then you stand in the triangle so that you're not devoured or taken by these creatures that come out.
It creates an energy field around you which they can't penetrate.
They can't penetrate it, and they cannot get outside the pentagram. And they want out. They're always demanding to be let out. And so you have to be very powerful to keep them in line and to make them go back when it is time for them to go back.
Why do the reptilians want to manifest these quote demons at the rituals?
It brings power to the rituals. It brings power to them. They are told things by these entities, and they are encouraged to go on with what they're doing, and knowledge is imparted to them through these entities. But it takes a person with the ability to bring them out and make them answer, because they don't want to cooperate. They have to cooperate when the right person has control over them.
And that's to do with that person's energy, ability to use.
Right, yes.
You talked about the Aryan race coming from Mars. One expression of it seems to be very clearly what we call the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians had two deities, St. George, which became the British deity, and he defeated the dragon, which seems incredibly symbolic. And also St. Michael, who, according to the legend, banished Satan, or this negative force, into the abyss. Is this symbolism of the abyss anything to do with the fact that these reptilian demons of another dimension are somehow locked in time-space prison, and they can't get out? They're going to get out when they're brought out in that way.
Yes, they want out of that dimension. They have been thrown into that dimension, and they can't leave that dimension. And that's actually what the abyss is about, is being in a different dimension. It's like something to do with the fourth dimension. And before I even knew, for example, what I was saying, I realized what I was saying, I would be saying things to my therapist and other survivors that the fourth dimension was a dimension to stay away from. Not at that time understanding the whole thing.
Why do these rituals take place at certain key times of the year and so often are related to the phases of the moon?
Because the moon has an influence on this planet, and also the sun. These also take place during different things that go on with the sun, but the moon it's kind of a really very cyclical thing with the moon.